Elon Musk thought he had buried his past. At 52, he was one of the most powerful men in the world, with companies worth billions and dreams of colonizing Mars. He had learned to make hard choices, to put his mission before everything else, including the people who once mattered to him. But on a busy March morning at SpaceX headquarters, a mysterious package arrived that would shatter 30 years of carefully built walls. Inside was something Elon never expected to see again. Proof that some friendships are too important to stay buried forever. The package contained no explanation, just a return address from Portland, Oregon, and a single word written in faded ink. Remember. What Elon found inside would force him to confront the most painful decision of his youth. The night he betrayed his best friend and business partner to chase his dreams. It would reveal a dying teenager's final wish and a father's quiet forgiveness. Most importantly, it would teach the man trying to save humanity that some gifts are too precious to refuse, no matter how much they make you cry. This is the story of that gift and how it changed everything. The morning California sun streamed through the tall windows of SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne. Elon Musk sat at his desk, surrounded by computer screens showing rocket designs, production schedules, and endless emails. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't notice. His mind was focused on one thing: getting humans to Mars. Mr. Musk? Sarah Chin knocked on his office door. She had worked as his assistant for 3 years and knew his moods well. Today, he seemed more stressed than usual. "What is it, Sarah?" Elon didn't look up from his screen. He was studying the latest test results from the Starship program. The numbers weren't good. "A package arrived for you. Security already checked it, but..." Sarah paused. "It's different from the usual stuff." Elon finally looked up. His desk was always covered with packages. Fans sent him gifts. Companies sent him products. Engineers sent him ideas. Most of it went straight to the mailroom. "Different how?" he asked. Sarah held up a small brown box. It was about the size of a book, wrapped in plain brown paper. The address was written by hand in neat, careful letters. No company logo. No return address except for a simple Portland, Oregon. "There's just one word written on it," Sarah said, pointing to the top corner. "It says, remember." Elon frowned. He got strange packages all the time, but something about this one felt important. Maybe it was the handwriting. Maybe it was the single word. Or maybe it was just that he was tired and stressed from working 18-hour days. "Leave it here," he said. "I'll look at it later." Sarah set the package on his desk and left. Elon tried to focus on his work, but his eyes kept drifting to the brown box. The word, remember, was written in faded black ink. The handwriting looked familiar, but he couldn't place it. His phone buzzed. Another meeting about the Mars timeline. Another group of engineers wanting to discuss problems with the rocket design. Another day of trying to solve impossible problems. But the package sat there, waiting. During lunch, Elon found himself alone in his office. Most of his team was in the cafeteria, but he had stayed behind to catch up on emails. The package seemed to stare at him from across the desk as he picked it up. It was heavier than it looked. Not heavy like metal or electronics, but heavy like a book full of pages. The brown paper was slightly worn, as if it had traveled a long way. Elon tore off the paper carefully. Inside was an old leather journal, dark brown and weathered. The leather was soft from years of handling. Someone had loved this book that he opened. The cover. The first page had a date written at the top, January 15th, 1995. Below that, in the same neat handwriting as the address, were the words, "Day 1 of our partnership." Elon thinks we can change the world. Maybe he's right. Elon's breath caught in his throat. 1995. He remembered that year. He had just dropped out of Stanford after 2 days. He was young, broke, and full of crazy ideas about the future. He had met someone that year. Someone who believed in his dreams. That he turned the page. More entries, all dated, all written in that same careful handwriting. Day 5. Elon stayed up all night again, working on the website code. He says sleep is for people who don't want to change the world. I made him coffee and ordered pizza. Someone has to take care of him. Day 12. We got our first investor meeting. Elon practiced his pitch 20 times. He's nervous, but he won't admit it. I told him he's going to be famous someday. He laughed and said he doesn't want to be famous. He wants to be useful. Elon's hands started to shake. He knew who had written these words. The memories came flooding back like a dam breaking. The tiny apartment in Palo Alto, the air mattresses they slept on, the instant noodles they ate for every meal, the dreams they shared about changing the world. Marcus Chun. Elon hadn't thought about Marcus in years. He had trained himself not to think about those early days, about the partnerships that ended badly, about the friends he had lost along the way. Success was built on moving forward, not looking back. But here was Marcus's journal, filled with memories of their time together. Marcus Chun, the brilliant programmer from Taiwan who had believed in Elon's vision when no one else would. Marcus, who had worked 18-hour days without complaining. Marcus, who had been more than a business partner. Marcus, who had been his friend. Elon flipped through more pages. The entries continued for months, documenting their startup journey. Their first website, their first customer, their first fight about money, their first fight about the future of the company. And then, near the end of the journal, the entries became shorter. Sadder. Day 247. Elon made a decision without asking me. He says it's business, but it feels personal. I don't know if I can trust him anymore. Day 251. He took the investor meeting alone. He says he's protecting the company, but I think he's protecting himself. This isn't the Elon I met in January. Success is changing him. Day 255. It's over. He chose the money over our friendship. He says I don't understand, that sometimes you have to make hard choices to change the world. Maybe he's right. Maybe I don't understand. But I thought changing the world was supposed to make it better, not hurt the people who help you. The final entry was dated 6 months after the first. Day 267. Elon is gone. He took the company, the investors, and the future we planned together. I'm alone now, but I'm not angry anymore. I'm just sad. I hope he really does change the world. I hope it's worth what it cost him. Elon closed the journal and sat back in his chair. The office felt too quiet, too empty. Outside, he could hear the sounds of SpaceX, engineers working, rockets being built, the future being created. But inside, he felt like that young man from 1995, broke and full of dreams. Why had Marcus sent this journal now? It had been almost 30 years since they had spoken. 30 years since Elon had made the choice that ended their partnership and their friendship. 30 years since he had decided that changing the world was more important than keeping old friends. Elon looked at the package again. There was something else inside, a white envelope, sealed and unmarked. His name was written on the front in different handwriting. Younger handwriting. Messier, like someone who was sick or tired. He opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a letter, folded once. The paper was thin, like hospital paper. The handwriting was shaky but determined. At the top of the letter was a name, David Chun. Elon's heart stopped. Marcus had a son, and somehow, this son had written him a letter. The letter began, "Dear Mr. Musk, you don't know me, but I know you. My name is David Chun. My father is Marcus Chun. I think you two used to be friends." Elon's hands shook as he read the first line. Whatever was in this letter, whatever David Chun had to say, it was going to change everything. But before he could read another word, his phone rang. Another meeting, another crisis, another day of trying to save the world. The letter would have to wait. But as Elon stood up to leave his office, he caught sight of his reflection in the window. He looked tired, older, alone, and for the first time in years, he wondered if Marcus Chun had been right about the cost of changing the world. The meeting dragged on for 2 hours. Elon sat at the long table in the SpaceX conference room, surrounded by engineers and managers. They were talking about rocket fuel and launch schedules, but his mind kept drifting back to the journal on his desk. Mr. Musk, Tom Williams, the head engineer, was looking at him expectantly. "What do you think about the new fuel mixture?" Elon blinked. He had no idea what Tom had just said. "Run the tests," he said automatically. "We need more data." Tom nodded and continued talking. But Elon wasn't listening anymore. He was thinking about Marcus Chun and that coffee shop in Palo Alto where they had first met. It was January 1995. Elon had just made the biggest decision of his young life, dropping out of Stanford's PhD program after only 2 days. His professors thought he was crazy. His parents thought he was throwing away his future. But Elon knew something they didn't. The internet was about to change everything. That he had been sitting in a small coffee shop called The Grind, working on his laptop and drinking his third cup of coffee. He was trying to figure out how to build a website that would help people find local businesses. It sounded simple. but the technology was new and complicated. "Excuse me," someone had said. "Are you working on a website?" Elon looked up to see a young Asian man about his age, holding a cup of tea and looking curious. He was thin and wore glasses, with neat black hair and kind eyes. "Yeah," Elon said. "We're trying to. The code is being difficult." The stranger smiled. "Mind if I take a look? I'm Marcus Chun. I'm pretty good with computers." That was an understatement. Marcus wasn't just good with computers, he was brilliant. He had grown up in Taiwan, where his parents ran a small electronics shop. He had learned to program when he was 10 years old, fixing computers for his father's customers. When Marcus moved to America for college, he brought with him a deep understanding of technology and a quiet determination to succeed. He had graduated from UC Berkeley with perfect grades and was working at a small software company in San Francisco. But Marcus had bigger dreams. He wanted to start his own company, to build something that would matter. When he met Elon in that coffee shop, he saw a kindred spirit, someone else who believed technology could change the world. "This is good," Marcus said, looking at Elon's code. "But I think there's a better way to do it." For the next 4 hours, they worked together on Elon's laptop. Marcus showed Elon new programming tricks. Elon shared his vision for the future of online business. By the time the coffee shop closed, they had become partners. "We should call it WebGuide," Marcus suggested. "Like a guidebook, but for the internet." Elon liked the name. More importantly, he liked Marcus. Here was someone who understood his ideas, who could make them real. Someone who worked as hard as he did and dreamed as big as he did. They shook hands that night outside the grind. Neither of them knew it was the beginning of the most important friendship of their lives. The next few months were a blur of 18-hour days and impossible deadlines. They rented a tiny apartment in Palo Alto, one room with a kitchenette and a bathroom. They bought 2 air mattresses and set up their computers on folding tables. Marcus handled the programming while Elon worked. On the business side, they lived on instant noodles and pizza, splitting everything 50-50. When one of them got discouraged, the other would make jokes or order Chinese food or just sit and listen. "You know what I like about you?" Marcus said one night around 2 a.m. They were both exhausted, debugging code that refused to work properly. "What?" Elon asked, not looking up from his screen. "You think big, but you don't forget the small stuff. Like making sure I eat dinner, or asking how my parents are doing." Elon had laughed. "Someone has to take care of you. You'd work yourself to death if I didn't stop you." "We take care of each other," Marcus said. "That's what makes us different from other startups. We're not just business partners. We're friends." Elon remembered those words now, sitting in the SpaceX conference room. Marcus had been right. They were friends. Real friends, not just people who worked together. Marcus was the one who stayed up all night when Elon got food poisoning from bad takeout. Elon was the one who helped Marcus practice his English when they had to present to investors. Marcus celebrated when Elon's code finally worked. Elon celebrated when Marcus solved a problem that had been bothering him for weeks. They had different strengths, but they shared the same dream: use technology to help people. WebGuide was going to make it easier for people to find local businesses, but it was also going to prove that 2 young guys with big ideas could change the world. For a while, it worked. They got their first investor meeting in March, then their first customer in April. By summer, they had a working website and a small but growing user base. But success brought new challenges. They needed more money to grow. They needed to make hard decisions about the future of the company. And they needed to figure out how to compete with bigger, more established companies. That's when the cracks started to show. Marcus wanted to focus on making WebGuide profitable. He thought they should improve their current product and build a steady business. "We have something good here," he would say. "Why rush to change it?" Elon wanted to pivot to something bigger. He was fascinated by the idea of online payments and digital money. He thought the internet was going to revolutionize how people bought and sold things. "We can't just be a local business directory," he would argue. "We need to be part of the future." Their late-night conversations became arguments. Their shared meals became tense negotiations. The friendship that had been their greatest strength started to feel like a weakness. "You're not listening to me," Marcus said one night in August. They were in their apartment, surrounded by empty pizza boxes and crumpled papers. "I am listening," Elon said. "I just think you're wrong." "I'm not wrong. I'm careful. There's a difference." "Careful doesn't change the world, Marcus." Maybe the world doesn't need to be changed as fast as you think it does. Looking back now, Elon could see that they were both right and both wrong. Marcus was right to be careful. Most startups failed because they moved too fast. But Elon was right about the future. Online payments did become huge, and the companies that got there first won big. But at the time, all Elon could see was that Marcus was holding him back. And all Marcus could see was that Elon was willing to risk everything they had built together. The meeting finally ended. As the engineers filed out of the conference room, Elon stayed behind. He pulled out his phone and did something he hadn't done in years. He searched for Marcus Chin online. The results were sparse. No LinkedIn profile, no company website, no news articles about successful startups or IPOs. Just a few mentions of someone named Marcus Chun who worked at a nonprofit in Portland, Oregon, the same city where the package had come from. Elon felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that Marcus was alive and seemed to be doing well. Sadness that his brilliant friend had ended up at a small nonprofit instead of changing the world. And guilt, deep, crushing guilt, about the role he had played in that outcome. He walked back to his office, where the journal and the letter were still waiting on his desk. The letter from David Chun, Marcus's son, a son Elon didn't even know existed. Elon sat down and picked up the letter again. His hands were steadier now, but his heart was still racing. Whatever David had to say, it was going to force Elon to confront the past he had spent 30 years trying to forget. The past where he had been young and idealistic and had believed that friendship and success could coexist. The past where he had made a choice that changed everything. The past where he had lost the best friend he ever had. Elon picked up David's letter, but before he could read it, his eyes fell back on Marcus's journal. He opened it to where he had stopped reading, near the end of the entries. The handwriting looked more rushed here, less careful than the early pages. Day 220, we're running out of money. Elon wants to change everything about the company. I want to stick with what works. We had our biggest fight yet today. He said I don't have vision. I said he doesn't have patience. Maybe we're both right. Elon remembered that fight. It was October 1995, and WebGuide was struggling. They had users, but not enough. They had some money from small investors, but it was almost gone. Every day felt like a race against time. Day 225, Elon keeps talking about online payments. He thinks that's the future. I think we should focus on making our current website better. We're good at helping people find local businesses. Why throw that away to chase something completely different? Elon turned the page. Marcus's handwriting was getting shakier, like he was writing late at night or when he was upset. Day 230. Found out Elon has been talking to investors without me. He says he's just exploring options, but it feels like he's planning something. I asked him about it, and he got defensive. He said I wouldn't understand the business side. That hurt. Elon's stomach twisted. He remembered those secret investor meetings. At the time, he had told himself he was protecting Marcus from bad news. WebGuide was failing, and they needed to pivot to survive. But reading Marcus's words now, he could see how his secrecy had looked like betrayal. Day 235, Elon met with David Park from Venture Capital West today. Alone. Again. When I asked about it, he said it was just a preliminary meeting. But why wouldn't he want me there? We're supposed to be partners. Partners don't hide things from each other. David Park. Elon remembered him clearly. A smooth investor in expensive suits who saw dollar signs in everything. Park had been interested in Elon's vision for online payments, but he had concerns about the partnership structure of WebGuide. Two founders can be a problem, Park had said during one of their secret meetings, especially when they disagree about direction. Investors like clear leadership. Marcus is brilliant, Elon had replied. He's the best programmer I've ever worked with. I'm sure he is. But programming isn't leadership. You're the visionary. Here, you're the one who sees the big picture. Park's words had been like poison, feeding Elon's growing frustration with Marcus's cautious approach. At 24 years old, Elon was impatient to change the world. Marcus's desire to move slowly felt like an anchor holding him back. Day 240, something's wrong. Elon is acting strange. He won't look me in the eye when we talk about the future. He's been working late, but not on code. He's writing business plans and making phone calls when he thinks I'm not listening. I'm scared he's planning to leave. Marcus had been right to be scared. Elon was planning something, but it was worse than leaving. He was planning to push Marcus out. Day 245, Elon asked me to meet him at the office tonight. He sounded serious. I think he's going to tell me whatever he's been hiding. I hope we can work it out. We've been through too much together to let business destroy our friendship. Elon remembered that night. November 15th, 1995. The night everything changed, he had arrived at their tiny office early, before Marcus got there. The office was just a converted garage behind a sandwich shop with 2 desks and a coffee machine that barely worked. But it had been theirs, the place where they had built their dreams together. Elon had packed his computer and his personal things into boxes. He had a check from David Park's venture capital firm in his pocket, enough money to start over, to build the online payment company he dreamed of. But the check came with conditions. The investment is for you personally, Park had explained. Not for WebGuide, not for a partnership. We believe in your vision, but we need you to be in complete control. When Marcus walked into the office that night, he stopped in the doorway. He saw the boxes, saw Elon's guilty expression, and understood immediately what was happening. You're leaving, Marcus said quietly. I'm starting something new, Elon replied, not meeting his friend's eyes. David Park is funding it. It's going to be big, Marcus. Bigger than WebGuide ever could be. Without me, the investors, they want a single founder. They think partnerships are too risky. Marcus sat down heavily in his chair. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was broken only by the hum of their computers and the distant sound of traffic on University Avenue. This is about the payment system idea, isn't it? Marcus finally said. Yes, but it's bigger than that. It's about the future of money itself. It's about revolutionizing how people buy and sell things online. And you couldn't do that with me. Elon finally looked at his friend. Marcus's face was calm, but his eyes were hurt and confused. You don't believe in it the way I do. You want to play it safe. But safe doesn't change the world. I believed in you, Marcus said simply. I thought that was enough. Those words hit Elon like a punch to the stomach. Because Marcus was right. He had believed in Elon completely, had trusted him with everything. And Elon was throwing that trust away for money and investors who didn't even know Marcus's name. This is business, Elon said, hating himself even as he said it. It's not personal. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. Everything is personal, Elon. That's what you never understood. Business is personal. Friendship is personal. You can't separate them just because it's convenient. I can't let emotion cloud my judgment. If I want to change the world, I have to make hard choices. Hard choices, Marcus repeated. Is that what you call this? A hard choice. Marcus stood up and walked to his computer. He began shutting it down, unplugging cables, packing his things into a box. His movements were careful and deliberate, like he was performing surgery. What are you doing? Elon asked. I'm making this easy for you, Marcus said. You want me gone, so I'm leaving. You can have the office, the WebGuide name, whatever's left of our company. I don't want any of it. Marcus, don't be like this. Maybe we can work something out. Maybe what? Marcus turned to face him, and Elon saw tears in his friend's eyes. Maybe you can give me a job at your new company? Maybe you can throw me some scraps from your revolutionary future. That's not what I meant. I know exactly what you meant. You meant that maybe you can find a way to use me without having to treat me as an equal. Well, I'm not interested. Marcus finished packing and walked toward the door. At the threshold, he stopped and turned back. You know what the saddest part is, Marcus said. I would have helped you build your payment system. If you had asked me, if you had trusted me enough to include me, I would have said yes. Because I believed in you. Because I thought we were friends. We are friends, Elon said desperately. This doesn't change that. Marcus shook his head. Friends don't lie to each other. Friends don't make secret deals behind each other's backs. Friends don't choose money over loyalty. I'm not choosing money. I'm choosing the future. No, Marcus said quietly. You're choosing to be alone. And someday, when you've conquered the world and changed everything you wanted to change, you're going to realize that it doesn't mean anything if you have no one to share it with. Marcus walked out of the office, and Elon never saw him again. Now, nearly 30 years later, sitting in his SpaceX office surrounded by all the success he had dreamed of, Elon realized that Marcus had been right. He had conquered the world. In a way, he had built companies worth billions of dollars. He had revolutionized online payments, electric cars, and space travel, but he was alone. Elon closed the journal and picked up David's letter with shaking hands. Whatever Marcus's son had to say, it was going to hurt. Because the truth always hurt, especially when you had spent decades running from it. The first line of the letter was simple. Dear Mr. Musk, you don't know me, but I know you. My name is David Chun. My father is Marcus Chun. I think you two used to be friends. Used to be friends. Past tense. Because of choices Elon had made in a converted garage 30 years ago. Choices that had cost him the best friend he ever had. Elon's hands trembled as he unfolded David's letter. The paper was thin and white, like the kind they used in hospitals. The handwriting was young but shaky, as if written by someone who was very sick or very tired. But before he could read David's words, Elon found himself drawn back to Marcus's journal. There were still a few pages left, entries written after their partnership ended. He needed to know what had happened to his old friend. Day 270. I'm back in my parents' house in San Francisco. It feels strange to be here after living on my own for so long. Mom keeps making me soup and asking if I'm okay. I tell her I'm fine, but I don't think she believes me. Elon could picture Marcus in his childhood bedroom, surrounded by old computer magazines and programming books. Marcus had talked about his parents sometimes, his father who fixed radios and televisions, his mother who worked at a bank. They had saved money for years to send their son to college in America. Day 275. Dad asked me about the company today. I told him it didn't work out. He said that's okay. That failure is how we learn. But I don't feel like I learned anything. I just feel stupid for trusting someone who didn't trust me back. Day 280. Saw an article about Elon in the San Jose Mercury News. His new company is called X.com. They're working on online payments, just like he said. Part of me is happy for him. Part of me is angry. Most of me is just sad. Elon remembered that article. It had been his first real press coverage, a small story about young entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. He had felt so proud when it came out. But reading Marcus's journal now, he realized his success had been built on his friend's pain. Day 300. Got a job offer from a software company in Portland called Digital River. It's not glamorous, just writing code for business websites. But they seem nice, and Portland is supposed to be a good place to live. Maybe it's time for a fresh start. Portland. So that's how Marcus had ended up there. Elon kept reading, watching his friend's life unfold through journal entries. Day 350. Portland is beautiful. It rains a lot, but I like the sound of rain on my apartment window. The people at Digital River are good to work with. They don't talk about changing the world or being the next big thing. They just want to build useful software. There's something peaceful about that. As Elon read, he realized that Marcus's journal entries were becoming less frequent. Instead of daily writings, they became weekly, then monthly. But they also became happier. March 1997. Met someone today. Her name is Lisa, and she works in our marketing department. She has the kindest smile I've ever seen. When I told her I used to have my own startup, she asked what happened. I said, it didn't work out, and she said that just means I was brave enough to try. I think I might ask her out. June 1997. Lisa said yes. We're going to see a movie this weekend. I can't remember the last time I was this nervous about anything. It's a good kind of nervous, though, different from the stress of running a company. Elon felt a strange mix of emotions reading about Marcus's dating life. He was happy that his old friend had found someone, but also jealous. While Marcus was falling in love, Elon was working 18-hour days, trying to build X.com into something big. December 1998. Lisa and I are engaged. She said she loves how I make her laugh, how I listen when she talks, how I remember little things like her favorite coffee order. I told her I learned from someone that friendship and business don't have to be the same thing, that you can care about people without trying to use them. May 1999. Our wedding was perfect. Small ceremony in her parents' backyard, just family and close friends. No investors or business partners or people who want something from us. Just people who love us for who we are, not what we might become. Elon paused reading. In 1999, he had been working frantically to merge X.com with PayPal. He had been invited to dozens of weddings that year, fellow entrepreneurs, Stanford classmates, business contacts. But he had skipped most of them, too busy building his empire to celebrate other people's happiness. He had never been invited to Marcus's wedding. He probably wouldn't have gone even if he had been. But the fact that Marcus hadn't even thought to invite him hurt more than Elon wanted to admit. June 2001. Amy was born today. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, and absolutely perfect. When I held her for the first time, I understood something I'd never understood before. Success isn't about building something that lasts forever. It's about building something that matters right now, in this moment. September 2003, David arrived. Amy is fascinated by her baby brother. She keeps trying to show him her toys and read him books. Lisa says Amy is going to be a great teacher someday. I think she might be right. Elon felt his throat tighten. Marcus had children, a daughter named Amy and a son named David. David, who had written the letter Elon was holding. December 2005, Amy asked me today what I do at work. I told her I help people build websites for their businesses. She asked if that's important, and I said yes, because helping people is always important. She nodded seriously and said she wants to help people too when she grows up. March 2008, David is getting interested in computers. He's only 5, but he loves watching me code. I set up an old computer in his room with some simple programming games. He spends hours playing with them, figuring out how they work. He reminds me of myself at that age. The entries continued through the years. Marcus's children growing up. His promotion to senior developer at Digital River. Lisa is starting her own small business as a wedding photographer. A normal, happy life far from the headlines and stock prices of Silicon Valley. April 2010, made a big decision today. I'm leaving Digital River to start a nonprofit. It's called Code for Community, and the idea is to teach programming to kids who might not otherwise get the chance. Lisa thinks I'm crazy to give up a good salary, but she supports me anyway. Amy and David are excited. They say their dad is going to be a teacher like they want to be. August 2012. Our first coding camp was a huge success. 20 kids from low-income families spent 2 weeks learning to build websites and simple games. Watching them discover what they could create was better than any IPO or acquisition I could have imagined. Elon read about Marcus's nonprofit work with growing amazement. While Elon was building Tesla and SpaceX, trying to revolutionize transportation and space travel, Marcus was revolutionizing individual lives, one kid at a time. June 2015. David is 12 now and already better at programming than some of my adult volunteers. But what impresses me most isn't his technical skill, it's his heart. Yesterday, he spent 2 hours helping a younger kid debug a simple program. When I asked him why, he said, "Dad, isn't that what programming is for? Helping people solve problems." December 2018. Amy got into Stanford. She wants to study education and psychology. She says she wants to understand how people learn so she can be a better teacher. I'm so proud of both my kids. They're going to change the world in their own way. March 2020. The pandemic shut down our in-person programs, but David figured out how to move everything online. At 17, he's become our Chief Technology Officer. He built a virtual classroom system that's better than anything we could have bought. And he did it because he wanted to make sure the kids could keep learning. Elon realized he was crying, not just for Marcus, but for the life he could have had if he had made different choices. Marcus had found a way to use technology to help people without sacrificing love, family, or friendship. He had changed the world on a smaller scale, but maybe a more meaningful one. The journal entries became sparse in the final pages, just a few scattered notes. But the last entry, dated December 2023, made Elon's heart stop. David is sick, very sick. The doctors say it's a rare form of brain cancer. They're going to try treatment, but the odds aren't good. My brilliant, beautiful boy who wanted to save the world through code might not live to see his 19th birthday. Lisa and I are trying to stay strong for Amy, but inside we're falling apart. If there's a God, why would he take someone with so much to give? And then, in different handwriting, shakier, younger, a final note. Dad doesn't know I'm writing this. But if something happens to me, I want him to send this journal to Elon Musk. Dad talks about him sometimes when he thinks I'm not listening. He's not angry anymore, just sad. They used to dream about changing the world together. Maybe they still could. David. Elon closed the journal and picked up David's letter with shaking hands. This brave, sick teenager had somehow understood something that had taken Elon 30 years to learn. That the world needed more than just technological innovation. It needed human connection. The world needed friendship. Elon's hands shook as he unfolded David's letter. The paper felt fragile, like it might tear if he wasn't careful. At the top, in that same shaky handwriting, was a date, November 15th, 2023, at exactly 28 years after the night Elon had betrayed Marcus. David had written this letter on the anniversary of his father's greatest heartbreak. "Dear Mr. Musk," the letter began. "You don't know me, but I know you. My name is David Chun. My father is Marcus Chun. I think you two used to be friends." Elon took a deep breath and kept reading. "I'm 18 years old, and I'm dying. The doctors say I have maybe 2 months left, maybe less. I have a rare brain cancer that doesn't respond to treatment. I'm not writing this to make you feel sorry for me. I'm writing because I have something important to tell you. My dad never talks about you directly, but I know about your history. I found his old journal when I was helping him clean out the garage last year. I read about WebGuide, about your partnership, about how it ended. Dad doesn't know I read it." Elon felt a chill. This dying teenager had somehow pieced together the story that Elon had spent decades trying to forget. "At first, I was angry at you. How could you hurt my dad like that? He's the kindest person I know. He taught me to code when I was 5. He volunteers at homeless shelters. He cries during sad movies and remembers everyone's birthday. The idea that someone could betray him made me furious. But then I started following your work. Tesla, SpaceX, the Boring Company. I read every interview, watched every presentation. I saw what you were trying to do: save the planet from climate change, make humans a multi-planet species, solve traffic problems. I realized you weren't just some greedy businessman. You were trying to save the world." Elon paused reading. This teenager understood his mission better than most adults. "I started thinking about what happened differently. Maybe you didn't betray my dad because you were selfish. Maybe you did it because you cared so much about the future that you were willing to hurt people in the present to protect it. I think that's what my dad couldn't understand back then. He saw you choosing success over friendship. But maybe you were choosing humanity's future over your own happiness. Maybe you thought you had to become someone cold and focused to change the world." The letter continued, and Elon could hear David's voice growing weaker, his thoughts becoming more scattered. "When I got sick, everything became clearer. Time is the most precious thing we have, and most people waste it on stupid things. But you're different. You use every minute trying to build a better future. I respect that, even if it cost you my father's friendship. But here's what I think you're wrong about. You don't have to choose between saving the world and having people who care about you. My dad teaches coding to kids from poor families. He's changing the world too, just on a smaller scale. And he has friends, family, people who love him. He proved you can do both." Elon felt tears running down his cheeks. This 18-year-old was wiser than he had been at 50. "I never got to meet you, but I wanted to before I die. I tried to contact your office, but your assistant said you don't take personal meetings. I understand, you're busy saving humanity, but I wish I could have told you something in person. My dad isn't angry at you anymore. He's just sad. He talks about you sometimes when he thinks I'm not listening. He says you two used to dream about changing the world together. He wonders what you might have accomplished if you had stayed friends. I wonder the same thing. Imagine what Tesla could do if it partnered with nonprofits like my dad's. Imagine if SpaceX recruited kids from underserved communities. Imagine if the person trying to save the world remembered that the world is made of people like my family." The handwriting became even shakier here, and there were spots on the paper that looked like tears. "I'm running out of time to write this. The cancer is affecting my hands now. But I need you to know something important. My dad forgives you. He never said it directly, but I can tell. He's proud of what you've accomplished, even if it hurt him at the time. And I forgive you too, even though you don't need my forgiveness. You were young and scared and trying to do something impossible. You made the best decision you could with the information you had. But you're not young anymore, Mr. Musk. You've proven you can change the world. The question is, what kind of world do you want to create? One where brilliant people have to choose between their mission and their friendships? Or one where caring about individuals makes you better at caring about humanity? My dad taught me that the best code is written by teams, not individuals. The best solutions come from people who trust each other. Maybe saving the world works the same way. I have one request. After I'm gone, I want my dad to send you his journal. It's full of memories from when you two were friends, before everything went wrong. I hope reading it will remind you of who you used to be, before you decided you had to carry the weight of the world alone. I also hope you'll consider reaching out to him. Not for business, not for publicity, just as one human being to another. He could use a friend right now. And maybe, after all these years, you could too. The letter was signed simply, David Chun, age 18, future programmer, if I had one. Below the signature was a postscript in even shakier handwriting. P.S. My sister Amy wants to study sustainable engineering at Stanford. If she applies to work at Tesla someday, please give her a chance. Not because of this letter, but because she's brilliant and wants to save the world just like you do. She gets that from our dad. Elon sat in his office chair, holding the letter, crying harder than he had in years. This remarkable young man, facing death at 18, had spent his final weeks trying to heal a friendship that had broken before he was even born. David had seen something that Elon had forgotten. That's saving. The world wasn't about being strong enough to do it alone. It was about being brave enough to do it together. The date on the letter was November 15th, 2023. David had died 2 weeks later, on December 1st. Elon knew this because he did something he rarely did. He searched for David Chin's obituary online. The obituary was short but beautiful. It talked about David's love of programming, his volunteer work with his father's nonprofit, his dream of working in sustainable technology. It mentioned that he was survived by his parents Marcus and Lisa and his sister Amy. But what broke Elon's heart was the final line. In lieu of flowers, the family requests donations to Code for Community, where David volunteered as a programming instructor and technology coordinator. David believed that the best way to honor his memory was to help other young people discover their potential through technology. Even in death, David was trying to change the world. Elon looked at his phone. It was 6 p.m. on a Friday. Outside his office windows, the SpaceX facility was quieting down as employees headed home to their families. Elon usually worked until midnight, but tonight felt different. Tonight, he needed to do something he hadn't done in 30 years that he needed to call an old friend. But first, he had to figure out how to apologize for 3 decades of silence. How to explain that he had received David's letter and Marcus's journal. How to tell a grieving father that his dying son had been wiser than the man trying to colonize Mars. Elon picked up his phone and searched for Marcus Chen's number. It wasn't hard to find. Code for Community's website listed Marcus as the founder and director with a phone number for the Portland office. His finger hovered over the call button. Once he made this call, there would be no going back. He would have to confront everything he had done, everything he had lost, everything he had become. But David's words echoed in his mind. Maybe saving the world works the same way as writing good code, with teams, not individuals, with trust, not isolation. Maybe it was time to stop carrying the weight of the world alone. Maybe it was time to remember how to be a friend. Elon stared at his phone for 20 minutes, Marcus's number glowing on the screen. Every time he started to press the call button, his hand would freeze. What would he say? "Hi Marcus, it's Elon. Sorry I ruined our friendship and never called for 30 years. Your son wrote me a letter before he died." It sounded terrible, no matter how he phrased it. Instead of calling, Elon did something else. He searched online for more information about David Chun. He found articles about Code for Community, photos from coding camps, and a local Portland news story about David's work during the pandemic. The news story showed a thin teenager with bright eyes and his father's gentle smile. David was demonstrating a virtual classroom he had built, explaining to the reporter how kids could learn programming from home during lockdown. Technology should bring people together, not push them apart, David said in the interview. "My dad taught me that. He says the best programs are the ones that help humans connect with each other." Elon found more photos. David at a science fair, holding a trophy for a project about renewable energy. David teaching younger kids to code, patient and encouraging. David with his family at his high school graduation, looking proud and happy despite being sick to eye in every photo. David looked like Marcus, the same thoughtful expression, the same way of listening carefully when other people talked. But there was something else in David's face, something that reminded Elon of himself at that age. A spark of ambition, a desire to solve big problems. David had inherited the best of both of them. Somehow, Elon kept searching and found something that made his heart stop. A blog post David had written just 3 months before he died, titled, "Why I Want to Work for SpaceX Someday." Most kids, My age want to be YouTubers or professional gamers, David had written. I want to be an engineer on Mars. Not because space is cool, though it is, but because expanding beyond Earth might be the only way to ensure humanity survives long term. I've been following Elon Musk's work since I was 12. People say he's difficult to work with, that he's too demanding. But I think he understands something most people don't, that the future isn't guaranteed. That if we want our children and grandchildren to have a world to live in, we have to work harder than feels comfortable. My dad runs a nonprofit that teaches coding to kids. He always says that changing one life can change the world. Mr. Musk thinks bigger. He wants to change millions of lives at once. I think they're both right. We need people working on individual problems and people working on global problems. If I'm lucky enough to beat this cancer, I want to work on both. I want to help SpaceX get humans to Mars, and I want to make sure we take our humanity with us when we go. The blog post was dated September 15th, 2023, 2 months before David wrote his letter to Elon. 1 month before David died, Elon realized something that hit him like a physical blow. David had been trying to contact him for months, maybe years. The blog post, the attempts to call SpaceX, the letter, David had been reaching out, and Elon had never even known. How many other brilliant young people had tried to contact him? How many potential engineers, programmers, and visionaries had been blocked by his assistants and security teams? Elon thought about his own youth, when he had been desperate for mentors and connections. He remembered the excitement of meeting Marcus in that coffee shop, the thrill of finding someone who understood his ideas. What if Marcus had been too busy to talk to him? What if that conversation had never happened? David would never get the chance to work for SpaceX. He would never see humans land on Mars. He would never get to change the world the way he had dreamed. But maybe, Elon thought, there was still a way to honor David's memory. Elon opened his laptop and began typing an email, not to Marcus. He wasn't ready for that conversation yet. Instead, he wrote to Tom Williams, his head of engineering. Tom, he wrote, I want to start a new internship program. Partner with community organizations that teach coding to underprivileged kids. Look for young people who combine technical skills with big picture thinking. The kind of kids who want to save the world, not just build cool rockets. And Tom, when you're reviewing applications, pay special attention to kids from Portland. There's a nonprofit there called Code for Community. I have a feeling they're producing exactly the kind of engineers we need. Elon sent the email and immediately felt better. It wasn't enough. Nothing could bring David back or undo 30 years of silence with Marcus. But it was a start. His phone rang. Sarah Chun, his assistant. Mr. Musk, I'm sorry to bother you, but there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's about the package you received this morning. Elon's heart raced. Who is it? A young woman named Amy Chun. She says she's from Portland. David's sister. Marcus's daughter. She had somehow made it past SpaceX security and was standing in his building. Send her up, Elon said. 0.5 minutes later, Sarah knocked on his door and let in a young woman who looked exactly like David, but with longer hair and sadder eyes. Amy Chun was maybe 19 or 20, wearing jeans and a Stanford sweatshirt. She carried a small backpack and looked nervous but determined. Mr. Musk, she said, her voice shaking slightly. Thank you for seeing me. I know you're busy. Please sit down, Elon said. And call me Elon. Amy sat in the chair across from his desk, the same chair where hundreds of engineers and executives had pitched ideas and solved problems. But this felt different, more personal. I drove down from Stanford, Amy said. I'm a sophomore there, studying engineering. I wasn't supposed to come here. My parents don't know I'm here. But after David died, I found something in his room. Something I thought you should see. She reached into her backpack and pulled out another letter. This one in an envelope addressed to Elon Musk in David's handwriting. He wrote this one first, Amy explained. Before he sent Dad's journal. Before he wrote the letter you got today. This one is different. More personal. He made me promise to give it to you if something happened to him, but only if you responded. To the journal and the other letter. How did you know I responded? Elon asked. Amy smiled for the first time since entering the room. Because you're here, talking to me. If you had thrown the journal away or ignored David's letter, you never would have agreed to see me. The fact that you're willing to listen means David got through to you. Elon took the second letter with trembling hands. Your brother was remarkable. He was Amy said, tears in her eyes. He spent his last weeks planning this whole thing. He said Dad needed closure, and you needed to remember who you used to be before you became famous. He said that maybe healing your friendship could help both of you do better work. He was very wise for 18. He got that from Dad. But the big dreams, the ambition to change the world, I think he got that from watching you. He used to fall asleep reading about SpaceX missions. Elon felt his throat tighten. Amy, I'm so sorry about your brother. And I'm sorry about what happened between your father and me all those years ago. Dad's not angry anymore, Amy said quietly. He's just lonely, especially now with David gone. Mom tries to help, but she didn't know David the way Dad did. They had this special connection over coding and big ideas. I'd like to talk to your father, Elon said. I don't know what to say, but I'd like to try. Amy nodded. He'd like that, too. But first, you should read David's other letter. It explains some things that the first one didn't. Elon looked at the envelope in his hands. Whatever David had written in this letter, it was going to change everything. Again, take your time, Amy said, standing up. I'll wait outside. No, Elon said. Stay? If your brother trusted you with this, then I trust you too. Amy sat back down, and Elon opened David's final letter. The second letter was written on different paper, thicker, nicer, like stationery from a fancy store. David's handwriting was neater here, as if he had taken extra time to make sure every word was perfect. Dear Elon, it began. No Mr. Musk this time. Just his first name, like they. We're already friends. If you're reading this, it means Amy gave you my second letter. It also means you read Dad's journal and my first letter, and you didn't throw them away. That makes me happy. It means I was right about you. Elon glanced at Amy, who was watching him carefully. She nodded encouragingly, as if she knew what the letter said and wanted him to keep reading. This letter is harder to write than the first one. In the first letter, I could be formal and polite. In this one, I need to be honest. And honesty is scary, even when you're dying. I lied about something in my first letter. I said I never got to meet you. That's not exactly true. I did meet you in a way, 3 months ago, when I was in the hospital for my last round of treatment. Elon's hands tightened on the paper. David had met him? When? How? You probably don't remember, but you visited the children's cancer ward at OHSU Hospital in Portland on August 15th. It was supposed to be a private visit. No cameras, no publicity. Just you spending time with sick kids. Elon did remember that visit. He had been in Portland for a Tesla factory meeting and had asked his assistant to find a local hospital where he could visit kids. He often did that when traveling, though he rarely talked about it publicly. I was in room 314. You stopped by for maybe 10 minutes. I was having a bad day. The chemo made me feel terrible, and I could barely keep my eyes open. But when you walked in, I thought I was hallucinating. You sat down next to my bed and asked how I was doing. I was so starstruck I could barely talk. I managed to tell you I was a programmer, that I loved SpaceX, that I wanted to work on sustainable technology. Someday, you listened like what I was saying was the most important thing in the world. Then you asked about my family. I told you about Dad's nonprofit, about teaching kids to code. You seemed really interested. You asked what the nonprofit was called. Elon's heart was pounding. He remembered that conversation now. A thin teenager with bright eyes, talking passionately about programming despite being obviously very sick. When I told you it was called Code for Community, your face changed. You got very quiet. You asked if my dad's name was Marcus. When I said yes, you looked like you had seen a ghost. You didn't say anything for a long time. Then you asked how Dad was doing, if he was happy. I said yes, he was happy, but that he sometimes seemed lonely. You nodded like you understood what I meant. Before you left, you put your hand on my shoulder and said something I'll never forget. Your father is a good man. Better than me, in a lot of ways. Take care of him, okay? Elon remembered saying those words. He remembered the shock of realizing that this remarkable young man was Marcus's son. He remembered wanting to say more, but not knowing how. After you left, I couldn't stop thinking about that moment. You knew Dad. You had history with him. And the way you looked when I mentioned his name, it wasn't anger or hatred. It was sadness. Deep, old sadness. I started researching your connection to Dad that night. I found old articles about WebGuide, SEC filings from when you started, X.com, even some early photos of you two together at tech conferences. I pieced together the whole story. But here's what I realized. You didn't forget about Dad. You carried him with you all these years. When you saw me in that hospital bed, you saw his son. And you cared. You were kind to me not because I was just another sick kid, but because I was Marcus Chen's boy." Elon wiped tears from his eyes. Amy handed him a tissue without saying anything. "That's when I decided to send you Dad's journal. Not to make you feel guilty, but to give you something you lost a long time ago. A reminder of who you were before you became the person who had to save the world alone. I planned everything carefully. I knew you'd probably ignore phone calls or emails from random people. But a mysterious package with Dad's journal? That would get your attention. And once you started reading, you'd remember. I also wrote my first letter to explain everything, to help you understand that Dad had forgiven you, that holding on to old hurt was hurting both of you more than the original betrayal ever did. But this second letter is for something else. This letter is to ask you for a favor. Not for me. I'll be gone by the time you read this. For Dad." Elon's hands were shaking now. Whatever David was about to ask, it was going to be difficult. "Dad doesn't know I'm dying. I mean, he knows the cancer is bad, but he doesn't know I only have a few weeks left. The doctors told me privately. I asked them not to tell my parents because I wanted my last weeks to be about living, not about dying. When I'm gone, Dad is going to blame himself. He's going to think he failed as a father because he couldn't save me. He's going to throw himself into work to avoid dealing with the pain. And he's going to be more lonely than he's ever been. My favor is this. Please don't let him disappear into his grief. He's going to need a friend, not a business partner or a networking contact. A real friend who knew him before he was David Chen's dad, before he ran a nonprofit, before his life became defined by taking care of other people. You two were friends once. Real friends who cared about each other and shared big dreams. Maybe you could be friends again. Not the same friendship. Too much has happened for that. But something new. Something built on who you both are now, not who you were 30 years ago. I know you're busy saving the world. I know you have companies to run and rockets to launch and planets to colonize. But Dad taught me that the world is made up of individual people, and sometimes saving one person is just as important as saving everyone. Save my dad, Elon. Save him from the loneliness that's coming. Save him from thinking his life's work doesn't matter because he couldn't save his son. Remind him that he's more than just my father. He's Marcus Chun, the brilliant programmer who believed in changing the world before he ever met me." The letter was almost over, but there was one more paragraph. "I have one more confession. I'm not just asking you to help Dad because I love him. I'm asking because I think you need him too. You've accomplished amazing things, but you've done them alone. You've forgotten how to let people help you, how to share your victories and your failures. Dad remembers the Elon who worked all night on code and then celebrated by ordering pizza and playing video games. Dad remembers the Elon who wasn't afraid to be young and silly and human. Maybe that Elon is still in there somewhere, under all the success and responsibility. Maybe healing your friendship with Dad will help you remember that saving the world doesn't mean you have to lose yourself." The letter was signed, "With love and hope, David Chun. P.S. Amy knows about this letter and about my plan. She's the only one. Please don't be mad at her. She's going to need friends too when I'm gone." Elon folded the letter carefully and looked at Amy. She was crying quietly, but she was also smiling. "He planned all of this," Elon said. "Every detail," Amy confirmed. "He spent weeks working on it, writing the letters, deciding when to send the journal, figuring out how to get them to you. He said it was the most important project he'd ever worked on. He was 18 years old. He was dying," Amy said simply. "It made him wise about what really mattered." Elon stood up and walked to his window, looking out at the SpaceX facility. Hundreds of brilliant people working to get humans to Mars. A noble goal, an important mission. But suddenly it felt incomplete. "Amy," he said, turning back to her. "Will you help me call your father?" Amy smiled through her tears. "I thought you'd never ask." Amy pulled out her phone and scrolled to her father's contact. "He's probably at the office," she said. "Saturday is his busiest day. That's when most of the kids come for coding classes." Elon felt his stomach twist with nervousness. He had given presentations to thousands of people, negotiated billion-dollar deals, and launched rockets into space. But calling an old friend felt more terrifying than any of those things. "What do I say?" Elon asked. "The truth," Amy said simply. Dad always taught us that complicated problems usually have simple solutions. Just tell him the truth. Amy dialed the number and put the phone on speaker. It rang 3 times before a familiar voice answered. Code for community. This is Marcus. Elon's breath caught. Marcus's voice was older, gentler than he remembered, but unmistakably the same. For a moment, Elon couldn't speak. Dad, Amy said. It's me. Amy. Sweetheart, where are you? I thought you were at Stanford. I'm visiting someone. Dad, I have someone here who wants to talk to you. There was a pause. Amy, what's going on? You sound strange. Elon took a deep breath. Hello, Marcus. The silence on the other end of the phone seemed to last forever. Elon could hear background noises, children laughing, computers beeping, the normal sounds of a busy coding class. But Marcus said nothing. Marcus, Elon said, are you there? I'm here. Marcus's voice was quiet, careful. I wasn't expecting to hear from you. Ever. I got your journal. And David's letters. Another long pause. Amy, you gave him David's letters. David asked me to, Amy said. Before he died. He planned this whole thing, Dad. He wanted you two to talk. Elon heard Marcus take a shaky breath. Elon, I don't know what to say. I sent that journal because David asked me to, but I never thought you'd actually call. I should have called 30 years ago, Elon said. I should have called when I heard about David. I should have called 100 different times, but I was too proud and too scared. David wrote about meeting you at the hospital, Marcus said. He never told me it was you who visited him. He just said a nice man came by and talked to him about programming. I knew he was your son the moment he told me your name. He looked just like you did when we were young. Same bright eyes, same passion for technology. He wanted to work for SpaceX someday, Marcus said, his voice breaking slightly. He had your picture on his bedroom wall, right next to photos of astronauts and rocket launches. Elon felt tears running down his face. He was extraordinary, Marcus. In 10 minutes of conversation, he showed more wisdom than most adults I know. You raised an incredible son. Lisa and I both did. But he got his big dreams from watching you on the news. He used to say, Dad, Mr. Musk is trying to save the whole human race. That's the kind of work I want to do. He was trying to save people too, Elon said. Just one at a time, like you taught him. His blog posts, his work with your nonprofit. He understood something I forgot. That saving humanity means caring about individual humans. Amy was crying now, listening to her father and Elon talk about her brother. But she was also smiling, seeing David's plan working exactly as he had hoped. I read your journal. Elon continued. All of it. I saw how our partnership ended from your perspective. Marcus, I was wrong. Not just about the business decision, but about everything. I chose success over friendship, and I've regretted it every day for 30 years. You weren't wrong about the business, Marcus said quietly. X.com became PayPal. PayPal changed how people think about money. You saw the future, and I was too scared to follow you there. But you were right about everything else. I became successful, but I became alone. I forgot how to be a friend, how to trust people, how to share the burden of trying to change the world. Elon, you've accomplished more than we ever dreamed. Of when we were kids eating ramen noodles in that tiny apartment. Tesla is revolutionizing transportation. SpaceX is making humans a multi-planet species. You did what you set out to do. But I lost myself in the process. I lost the person who cared about his programming partner enough to make sure he ate dinner. I lost the person who could sit around talking about big ideas without worrying about stock prices and board meetings. Marcus was quiet for a moment. David wrote in his letter that he thought we both needed each other. Do you think he was right? Elon looked around his office, walls covered with rocket designs and Mars colonization plans, shelves full of awards and accolades. It was the office of someone who had conquered the world, but it felt empty. I think your son was the wisest person I never got to really know, Elon said. And yes, I think he was right. I've spent 3 decades trying to save humanity while forgetting how to be human myself. Where are you right now? Marcus asked. SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne. What? I'm looking at flights to Los Angeles. There's one leaving Portland in 3 hours. Elon's heart jumped. You'd come here? Today? David spent his last weeks planning this reunion. The least I can do is see it through. Besides, I've always wanted to see a rocket factory. Amy clapped her hands together, grinning through her tears. David would be so happy right now, she said. What about your coding classes? Elon asked. I have volunteers who can handle things for one day. This is more important. Some things matter more than work schedules. Marcus, I thank you. I know this can't be easy. It's not easy, Marcus admitted. But losing David taught me something. About time. We don't have as much of it as we think we do. And holding on to old hurts is just another way of wasting it. They arranged to meet at SpaceX that evening. Marcus would take the 3 p.m. flight and arrive around 5 p.m. Elon would pick him up at the airport personally. No assistants, no drivers. Just two old friends meeting again after 30 years apart. After they hung up, Amy hugged Elon tightly. Thank you, she said. You just gave my dad the best gift anyone could give him right now. What's that? Hope. Hope that David's death can create something good instead of just destroying what we had. Hope that the friendship David read about in that old journal can exist again, even if it's different now. Elon hugged her back. Your brother was remarkable, Amy. And so are you. David told me you want to study sustainable engineering. Amy nodded. I want to help solve climate change. Like you're doing with Tesla, but maybe focusing on buildings and cities instead of cars. When you graduate, I want you to come work for us. Not because of this conversation, not because of David's letters, but because the world needs more engineers who understand that technology should serve humanity, not the other way around. David would love that, Amy said. He always said the best way to honor someone's memory is to continue their work. As Amy prepared to leave, Elon realized something had changed inside him. For the first time in decades, he wasn't thinking about the next meeting, the next deadline, the next impossible problem to solve. He was thinking about his friend Marcus, about the conversation they would have, about the possibility of healing something he thought was broken forever. He was thinking about what it meant to be human again, and for the first time in 30 years, that felt more important than getting to Mars. Elon canceled every meeting for the rest of the day. His assistant Sarah looked shocked when he told her to clear his schedule completely. All of them, she asked. Even the Starship Review meeting? All of them, Elon confirmed. Tell everyone something important came up. A family matter. Sarah nodded, though she looked confused. In 3 years of working for Elon, she had never heard him use the phrase family matter. He worked through holidays, birthdays, even when he was sick. Nothing stopped the schedule, but today was different. Elon spent the afternoon doing something he hadn't done in years. He thought about the past without trying to fix it or learn from it or use it to make better business decisions. He just remembered the night he and Marcus had stayed up until 4 a.m. debugging code, then celebrated by ordering pizza and playing Nintendo games until dawn. He remembered Marcus teaching him to make proper Chinese tea. He remembered their first successful demo, when their website actually worked and they had jumped around their tiny apartment like kids on Christmas morning. He remembered what it felt like to have a real friend. At 4 p.m., Elon drove to LAX airport himself. His security team wanted to send a driver, but Elon refused. This wasn't a business meeting. This was personal. The drive gave him time to think about what he would say to Marcus. 30 years of silence was a lot to make up for. Where do you even start? As he sat in the airport pickup area, waiting for Marcus's flight to arrive, Elon felt more nervous than he had before any product launch or investor presentation. His hands were actually shaking. Marcus's flight was on time. Elon watched passengers stream out of the terminal, looking for a face he hadn't seen in 3 decades. Would he recognize Marcus? Would Marcus recognize him? Then he saw him. Marcus Chen walked out of the terminal carrying a small overnight bag and looking around uncertainly. He was older, of course. His black hair was now gray, and he wore glasses. But his face was the same kind, thoughtful expression Elon remembered. Marcus saw Elon at the same moment. For a few seconds, they just stared at each other across the pickup lane. Then Marcus walked over to the car. Hello, Elon, Marcus said. Quietly. Hello, Marcus. They shook hands awkwardly. Then Marcus got into the passenger seat. Elon pulled away from the curb, and for the first few minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. You look tired. Elon laughed, though it wasn't really funny. I am tired. I've been tired for about 20 years. When did you last take a vacation? I don't remember. 2010 maybe? And that was just a weekend. Marcus shook his head. The old Elon used to complain when we worked more than 12 hours a day. Now you work 18 hours every day. Someone has to. The companies won't run themselves. But you have thousands of employees. Brilliant people who believe in your vision. Why do you have to do everything yourself? It was a question Elon had asked himself many times, but never answered honestly. Because if I stop, if I slow down, people might realize I'm not as smart as they think I am. And then everything might fall apart. Marcus was quiet for a moment. That sounds lonely. It is lonely. The words came out before Elon could stop them. It's the loneliest thing in the world, Marcus. I'm surrounded by people all day, every day, but none of them really know me. They know Elon Musk, the CEO. They don't know Elon, the person who used to eat instant noodles and dream about changing the world. I knew that person, Marcus said softly. Do you think he's still in there somewhere? Marcus looked at Elon carefully. David thought so. And David was usually right about people. They drove through Los Angeles traffic, past palm trees and billboards, advertising movies and tech companies. It was a beautiful Saturday evening in California, the kind of weather that made people move to Los Angeles in the first place. Tell me about David, Elon said. What was he like as a kid? Marcus smiled, and his whole face changed. Curious about everything. He started taking apart our computers when he was 6. Lisa was horrified, but I was proud. He wanted to understand how things worked. Like his father. Maybe. But David was also gentle in a way I never was. When he was 8, he spent a whole summer teaching our neighbor's 5-year-old daughter how to use a computer. He was so patient with her, so encouraging. I realized he was going to be a better teacher than I'd ever be. Is that why you started the nonprofit? Partly, but mostly it was watching David with other kids. He had this gift for making complicated things seem simple, for making kids believe they could do more than they thought they could. Elon thought about his own children, his 5 sons with his ex-wife Justine, his daughter and son with Grimes. How much time had he spent teaching them things? How often had he been patient and encouraging instead of distracted and busy? Do you regret it? Elon asked, choosing the nonprofit over building another tech company. Marcus considered the question seriously. Sometimes I wonder what might have happened if I had tried again. If I had been braver, more ambitious. But then I think about the kids we've helped, the families whose lives changed because their children learned to code. I think about David, growing up watching me choose people over profits. No, I don't regret it. You changed the world too, Elon said. Just on a different scale. Maybe. But what about you? Do you regret choosing the companies over? Marcus paused. Over other things. Elon was quiet for a long time. They were getting close to SpaceX now, passing the exit for Hawthorne. I regret losing you, he said finally. I regret that David grew up hearing stories about your old business partner instead of knowing his uncle Elon. I regret that I've become someone who's better at talking to engineers than to his own kids. It's not too late to change that, isn't it? I'm 52 years old, Marcus. I've built my entire life around work. I don't know how to be anything else. David was 18, and he figured out how to heal a 30-year-old friendship from his hospital bed. If he could do that, you can learn to be human again. They pulled into the SpaceX parking lot. The facility was mostly empty on a Saturday evening, just a few lights in the windows where dedicated engineers were working late on rocket designs. Want to see what we're building? Elon asked. Marcus nodded. I've always wondered what the inside of a rocket factory looks like. As they walked toward the main building, Marcus stopped and looked up at the SpaceX logo on the side of the building. Elon, he said, I need to tell you something. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you've accomplished, what you've built. Even when I was angry, even when I felt betrayed, I was always proud that my friend from the coffee shop was trying to save the world. Elon felt tears in his eyes again. I'm proud of you too, Marcus. David was right. You found a way to change the world without losing your soul. That's harder than building rockets. Maybe we both did what we needed to do, Marcus said. Maybe the world needed both kinds of change, your big global solutions and my small individual ones. Maybe David was right that we're better together than apart. As they walked into the SpaceX building together, Elon realized something had shifted inside him. For the first time in decades, he wasn't thinking about the next goal, the next milestone, the next impossible challenge to overcome. He was thinking about friendship, about connection, about what it meant to share the journey instead of traveling alone. He was thinking about coming home. The SpaceX factory floor was enormous, filled with gleaming metal rockets in various stages of construction. Marcus stood in the entrance, looking up at a Falcon 9 rocket that stretched toward the ceiling like a silver skyscraper. "This is incredible," Marcus whispered. "When we were kids dreaming about the future, I never imagined anything like this." Elon felt a surge of pride, but it was different from the usual satisfaction he got from showing off his companies. This time, he was sharing something important with someone who mattered to him. "Come on," Elon said. "Let me show you the Starship." They walked through the factory, past teams of engineers working on rocket engines and guidance systems. A few workers recognized Elon and waved, but most were too focused on their tasks to notice their CEO giving a tour on a Saturday evening. The Starship prototype towered above them, a stainless steel giant designed to carry humans to Mars. Marcus walked around it slowly, running his hands along the smooth metal surface. "David would have loved this," Marcus said quietly. "He used to draw pictures of rockets when he was little. He said someday he wanted to visit other planets. He could have worked here," Elon said. "If he had lived, if he had graduated from college, I would have hired him immediately. The world needs more engineers who understand that technology should serve humanity." He knew that. Even at 18, he understood something that took me decades to learn: that helping individual people and helping all of humanity aren't different goals. They're the same goal at different scales. They climbed a set of stairs to an observation platform that gave them a better view of the entire factory. From up here, they could see the organized chaos of rocket construction, hundreds of people working together to solve impossible problems. "I've been thinking about what David wrote in his letters," Elon said, "about how the best code is written by teams, not individuals. Maybe he was right about more than just programming." "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe I've been doing this all wrong. Building companies, changing the world. I thought I had to do it alone because trusting other people was too risky. But look at this place." Elon gestured at the factory floor. Below them, every rocket we build requires thousands of people working together. None of this happens because of one person, no matter how smart or driven they are. Marcus nodded. "David used to say that the best leaders aren't the ones who do everything themselves. They're the ones who help other people do their best work. Your son was wise beyond his years. He got that from watching both of us, I think. He saw what I built with the nonprofit, small teams of people helping each other learn and grow. And he saw what you built here, huge teams of people working toward impossible goals. He understood that both approaches have value." They sat down on a bench, on the observation platform. Below them, the factory hummed with quiet activity. It was peaceful, almost meditative. "Marcus," Elon said, "I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me." "Okay. Do you think it's too late for me to change? To become someone who's better at relationships, better at being a friend?" Marcus looked at Elon carefully. "Do you want to change?" "Yes, but I don't know how. I've spent 30 years building walls around myself, telling myself that emotional distance was necessary for success. I don't know how to tear those walls down." "Start small," Marcus said. "That's what I learned from working with kids. You don't teach someone to program by starting with complex algorithms. You start with simple commands, basic concepts. You build trust first." What would that look like in real life? Call your children more often, not to check on their grades or their achievements, but just to ask how they're feeling. Eat lunch with your employees sometimes, not to discuss projects, but to get to know them as people. Take vacations, real vacations where you don't check email. Elon laughed. "That sounds terrifying." "It is terrifying, but David was terrified of dying, and he still spent his last weeks trying to heal our friendship. If he could be brave enough to do that, you can be brave enough to take a vacation. Will you help me?" Elon asked. "I know that's a lot to ask after everything that happened between us, but I don't think I can do this alone." "You're not alone," Marcus said simply. "You have me. You have Amy. You have thousands of employees who believe in your vision. You have children who love you, even if you haven't always been present for them. You're not alone, Elon. You just forgot how to see the people who are standing right beside you." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the engineers work below. It reminded Elon of their early days in the apartment, when they would take breaks from coding to just sit and think about the future. "I have an idea," Elon said suddenly. "What if we combined our approaches? Your grassroots education work with my company's resources?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if Tesla and SpaceX partnered with Code for Community? We could fund coding camps in every major city. We could bring kids here to see rocket construction, to meet real engineers, to understand that the future is something they can help build. Marcus's eyes lit up. David would love that idea. It would be his legacy. David Chin Memorial STEM Education Initiative, teaching kids that technology can solve big problems while still caring about individual people. You'd really want to do that. Fund education programs that might not have any direct benefit to your companies. Marcus, the best engineers I hire are the ones who understand that their work matters beyond just making money or solving technical puzzles. They're the ones who see the human impact of what they're building. If we can help more kids develop that perspective, we'll create a generation of engineers who can solve problems we haven't even thought of yet. Marcus stood up and walked to the railing, looking down at the rocket factory. 30 years ago, I thought you cared more about success than people. But this is about people. This is about David's belief that changing one life can change the world. I'm finally starting to understand what David meant, Elon said, joining Marcus at the railing. Individual lives and global change aren't separate things. They're connected. You can't really save humanity without understanding that humanity is made up of individuals with their own hopes and dreams and fears. And you can't really help individuals reach their potential without giving them big, meaningful problems to solve, Marcus added. David was right. We need both approaches. As they prepared to leave the factory, Marcus stopped and turned to Elon. Thank you for today, for reading the journal, for calling me, for listening to what David had to say. I know this wasn't easy. Thank you for coming, for giving me a chance to apologize and to remember what friendship feels like. Are we friends again? Marcus asked. Elon thought about the question. They weren't the same people they had been 30 years ago. Too much had happened, too much had changed. But they were something new, something built on the foundation of their old friendship but strengthened by everything they had learned since then. We're friends, Elon said. Different friends than we were before, but real friends. The kind of friends David believed we could be. As they walked out of the SpaceX building together, Elon realized that for the first time in decades, he was looking forward to Monday morning not because of the work he would do, but because of the conversation he would have with Marcus about the David Chun Memorial STEM Education Initiative. He was looking forward to building something that mattered to both of them. He was looking forward to changing the world together. 3 months later, Elon stood in a converted warehouse in Portland, watching 40 kids from Code for Community work on programming projects. The space had been transformed into a high-tech learning center, complete with 3D printers, robotics kits, and virtual reality stations, all funded by the David Chun Memorial STEM Education Initiative. Mr. Musk, a 12-year-old girl named Sophia, ran up to him, tablet in hand. Look what I built. On her screen was a simple but elegant program that calculated the fuel efficiency of electric cars. She had spent 2 weeks working on it, with help from Marcus and the other volunteer instructors. This is amazing, Sophia, Elon said, genuinely impressed. Have you thought about how this could be applied to spacecraft? Sophia's eyes went wide. Spacecraft use fuel efficiency calculations too. Everything that moves uses energy, Elon explained. Cars, rockets, even your laptop. Understanding how to use energy efficiently is one of the most important skills an engineer can have. Marcus walked over, smiling at the conversation. Sophia wants to be an environmental engineer. She's already thinking about ways to make buildings more energy efficient. That's exactly what we need, Elon said to Sophia. Engineers who think about the environment and efficiency at the same time. Would you like to visit Tesla sometime? We could show you how we design electric car batteries. Sophia nodded so enthusiastically that Marcus laughed. I think that's a yes. Over the past 3 months, Elon had visited Portland 4 times. Each visit, he spent a full day at Code for Community, talking with kids, learning about their projects, and remembering what it felt like to be young and excited about technology. More importantly, he and Marcus had become real friends again. They talked on the phone twice a week, not about business, but about life. Marcus had helped Elon reconnect with his own children, giving him advice about being present and patient. Elon had helped Marcus expand Code for Community to 3 new cities, providing both funding and engineering mentorship. How's Amy doing at Stanford? Elon asked as they watched Sophia return to her programming station. Really well. She loves her sustainable engineering classes. She's also started a club that teaches coding to middle school girls in East Palo Alto. She says she learned from watching David that the best way to honor someone's memory is to continue their work. She's going to be an incredible engineer. She gets that from her brother. And from you, in a way. David talked about your work so much that Amy grew up thinking that solving big problems was just something people did. Elon felt a familiar warmth when Marcus talked about David. The grief was still there. It always would be. But it was mixed with gratitude for the impact David had made in his short life. The warehouse was buzzing with activity. In one corner, a group of teenagers was building a robot designed to clean up ocean plastic. In another, younger kids were learning basic programming by making simple video games. Marcus moved between groups, offering encouragement and gentle corrections. His face lit up with the joy of teaching. You know what David would love about this place? Elon said. What? It's not just about technology. Look around. These kids are learning to work together, to solve problems as teams, to care about each other's success. You've created a community, not just a school. Marcus nodded. That was always the goal. David understood that the best solutions come from people who trust each other and care about each other. He saw that in our old friendship, and he saw that it was missing from both our lives. He was right. I spent so many years thinking that caring about people would make me weak, that emotions would cloud my judgment. But the best decisions I've made in the past 3 months have all been based on caring about people. Like what? Like changing Tesla's employee policy to give everyone more time off. Like starting the mentorship program where our engineers volunteer at schools. Like actually taking vacation days so I can spend time with my kids. Marcus smiled. How did that vacation go, by the way? Terrifying and wonderful. I took my boys camping for a week. No phones, no emails, no work talk. Just hiking and campfires and conversations about what they want to do with their lives. I learned more about my sons in that 1 week than I had in the previous year. And they're incredible people. Smart, funny, curious about everything. I realized I was so focused on providing for their future that I was missing their present. A young boy named Carlos approached them, holding a drawing. Mr. Chun, I finished my design for the Mars greenhouse. Marcus knelt down to Carlos's eye level. Show me what you've got. Carlos spread out his drawing, a detailed sketch of a dome-shaped greenhouse with solar panels and water recycling systems. I figured out how to grow food on Mars using only solar power and recycled water. And look, I added windows so the astronauts can see the plants growing. That way they won't feel so lonely on Mars. Elon felt his throat tighten. This 10-year-old had understood something that Elon's own engineers sometimes missed, that technical solutions needed to account for human emotions and needs. Carlos, this is brilliant, Elon said. Would you be interested in visiting SpaceX? We're working on the same problems you're solving here. Really? I could see real Mars stuff. Absolutely. In fact, I think our life support engineers could learn from your greenhouse design. After the kids left for the day, Elon and Marcus sat in the quiet warehouse, surrounded by computers and half-finished projects. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, creating patterns on the floor. I've been thinking about David's last letter, Elon said. The one where he asked me to save you from loneliness and grief. He was worried about me. Marcus said quietly. He knew losing him would be the hardest thing I'd ever face. But he was wrong about one thing. You didn't need saving. You needed a friend to share the burden, but you were strong enough to survive the loss. You turned your grief into this place, into helping other kids discover their potential. I had help. Lisa, Amy, the volunteers here. And eventually, I had you again. Do you think David knew that would happen? That bringing us back together would help both of us become better at what we do? Marcus considered the question. I think David understood. Something about friendship that we had forgotten. That it's not about being the same or agreeing on everything. It's about making each other stronger. He made us both stronger, even after he was gone. Especially after he was gone. His letters didn't just heal our friendship. They reminded us who we wanted to be. As they prepared to lock up the warehouse, Elon looked around at the space. One more time. Tomorrow, 40 kids would return to work on projects that could change the world. Some would design more efficient solar panels. Others would develop new ways to clean pollution from rivers and oceans. A few might even help design the systems that would keep humans alive on Mars. But all of them would learn the lesson that David had tried to teach through his letters. that the best solutions come from people who care about each other and work together. Marcus, Elon said as they walked to their cars. Thank you for giving me a second chance at friendship. I know, I didn't deserve it. David believed everyone deserves a second chance to be better than they were. Besides, some friendships are worth fighting for, even when it takes 30 years to figure out how. As Elon drove back to the airport, he thought about the email waiting for him from Amy Chun. She had applied for a summer internship at Tesla, and her application included a letter that began, "My brother David always said that the best way to honor someone's memory is to continue their work. I want to continue his work of proving that technology can solve big problems while still caring about individual people." Amy would get the internship, of course, not because of her connections, but because her application showed the same wisdom and passion that David had possessed. The Chun family's influence on the world would continue through her work, just as David had hoped, and Elon would be there to mentor her, to help her develop her talents, to ensure that the friendship between the Musk and Chun families would last for generations, because that's what friends do. They help each other's children become the best versions of themselves. They change the world together, one person at a time. 1 year after receiving Marcus's journal, Elon stood in a very different place than where this story began. He was in a cemetery in Portland, Oregon, holding a small bouquet of white roses. Beside him stood Marcus, Lisa, and Amy Chun. Together, they faced a simple granite headstone that read, "David Chun, 2005 to 2023. Beloved son, brother, and teacher. He showed us that changing the world starts with caring for each other." "It's hard to believe it's been a year," Marcus said quietly. "It feels like yesterday and forever at the same time," Amy added. She was home from Stanford for winter break, where she had just finished her first semester as a Tesla intern. Her supervisor had called her one of the most thoughtful engineers we've ever worked with. Elon knelt down and placed the roses by David's headstone. "I brought something to read," he said, "if that's okay with everyone." Marcus nodded. David would like that. Elon pulled a folded paper from his jacket pocket. "I wrote this letter to David last week. I know he can't read it, but I needed to tell him what his letters did for me. For all of us." He unfolded the paper and began to read. "Dear David, it's been 1 year since I received your father's journal and your letters. I wanted you to know what happened because of your incredible gift to me and your dad. First, your father and I are best friends again. Not the same friendship we had 30 years ago, but something better. Something built on who we really are now, not who we used to be. We talk twice a week. We visit each other's cities. We argue about programming languages and laugh about the old days. Your dad is teaching me how to be a better friend, and I hope I'm helping him remember that his dreams are just as important as mine." The David Chun Memorial STEM Education Initiative is now in 12 cities. We've taught coding to over 800 kids, and many of them are already building projects that could change the world. Sophia, the girl you would have loved, just designed a solar panel system that's 15% more efficient than anything we have at Tesla. She's 13 years old, and she wants to be an environmental engineer like your sister. Your sister Amy is extraordinary. By the way, she's interning at Tesla, working on sustainable building materials. But more than that, she started a mentorship program that pairs our engineers with kids from underserved communities. She says she learned from you that the best technology comes from diverse teams who care about each other. She's right. I've changed too, David. I still work hard. I'm still trying to get humans to Mars and solve climate change. But I also took 3 real vacations this year. I spent time with my kids without checking my phone. I eat lunch with my employees and ask them about their families, not just their projects. I've learned that caring about individual people doesn't make me a worse leader. It makes me a better one. Your mom told me something last month that I think you'd want to know. She said that before you got sick, you used to worry that your dad was too focused on small-scale work, that he wasn't thinking big enough. But now she sees that your dad was thinking bigger than anyone. He was thinking about the kind of people we need to solve tomorrow's problems. He was building character, not just companies. I think you'd be proud of what we're building together. Tesla just announced a partnership with Code for Community to create mobile STEM labs that will visit rural schools. SpaceX is funding coding camps at NASA centers across the country. But most importantly, we're teaching kids that being smart isn't enough. You also have to be kind, collaborative, and willing to lift others up as you climb. I want you to know that I think about you every day. When I'm making decisions, I ask myself, what would David think about this? Would this make the world better for individual people, not just humanity as a whole? You've become my conscience, David, and I'm a better person because of it. Your letters saved 2 friendships, mine and your father's, and my relationship with my own children. But they did more than that. They reminded me that the point of changing the world isn't to prove how smart or successful you can be. It's to create a world where more people like you can thrive. I miss you, David. I miss the conversations we never got to have, the projects we never got to build together, the friendship that could have been. But I'm grateful for the time you used, your last weeks on this earth, to heal old wounds and plant seeds for new growth. Thank you for seeing the best in me when I had forgotten it existed. Thank you for believing that your dad and I could be friends again. Thank you for showing me that saving humanity means saving the humans right in front of us. Your friend, Elon. As Elon finished reading, he looked around at the Chin family. Lisa was crying quietly. Amy was holding her mother's hand. Marcus was staring at his son's headstone with a mixture of sadness and pride. He would love knowing that his plan worked. Amy said, David always said the best gifts are the ones that keep giving long after you've given them. This whole thing, our friendship, the education initiative, the changes we've all made, it all started with David's decision to send that journal. Marcus said, one 18-year-old kid, dying of cancer, decided to heal a 30-year-old wound between 2 stubborn men. And look what grew from that decision. Elon thought about all the ripple effects from David's letters. The kids learning to code in 12 cities. The engineers at Tesla and SpaceX who now saw their work as serving individual people, not just abstract goals. Amy's mentorship program that was already being copied by other companies. His own children, who now had a father who actually listened when they talked. I keep thinking about something David wrote. Elon said, that the best code is written by teams, not individuals. He was right about everything else, but I think he was especially right about that. None of us can change the world alone. Not me, not Marcus, not even David. But together, we can do things that seemed impossible. They stood in comfortable silence for a few more minutes, each lost in their own thoughts about David and the year that had passed since his death. Finally, Amy spoke up. David left one more thing. I've been waiting for the right time to share it. She pulled out her phone and showed them a video file dated December 1st, 2023, the day David died. He recorded this on his last day. He was too weak to write, but he wanted to leave a message for after you two became friends again. Amy pressed play. David's face appeared on the screen, thin and pale but with bright, determined eyes. His voice was weak but clear. If you're watching this, it means my plan worked. Dad and Elon are friends again. I'm so happy about that, even if I'm not there to see it. I want you to know that the best part of being sick wasn't the treatments or the medicine. It was watching how many people cared about each other. Nurses who stayed late to talk with scared kids. Doctors who remembered everyone's names. Volunteers who read stories just because someone needed to hear a friendly voice. That's what I want the world to be like. Full of people who care about each other while they're solving big problems. Dad taught me that technology should bring people together, not push them apart. Elon showed me that big dreams are worth pursuing, even when they seem impossible. But you taught me something even more important, that friendship is the most powerful technology of all. It connects hearts and minds across time and distance. It turns impossible problems into shared challenges. It makes us all stronger and smarter and braver than we could ever be alone. Keep being friends. Keep changing the world. Keep taking care of each other. And remember, the best way to honor someone's memory isn't to be sad that they're gone. It's to be grateful for what they taught you and to pass those lessons on to others. Thank you for letting me be part of your story. I love you all. The video ended, and for a long moment, no one spoke. Then Marcus reached over and put his arm around Elon's shoulders. Thank you for coming today, Marcus said. For reading that letter, for being here with us, for keeping David's memory alive through everything we're building. Thank you for forgiving me, Elon replied. For giving me a second chance at friendship. For showing me that it's possible to care about individual people and change the world at the same time. As they walked away from David's grave together, Elon realized that this wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. David's letters had planted seeds that would grow for decades to come. Every child who learned to code at one of their centers, every engineer who approached their work with both technical skill and human compassion, every friendship that formed across differences of background or belief, all of it would be part of David's legacy. The gift that had made Elon cry in his office 1 year ago had become a gift that would keep giving for generations. David Chun had died at 18, but his impact would last forever. And in the end, that's what changing the world really means. Not building monuments to your own brilliance, but creating conditions for others to discover theirs. David had understood that truth in a way that took the rest of them decades to learn. But thanks to his letters, they had learned it at last. They had learned to change the world together. And that was the end of this incredible story about friendship, forgiveness, and the power of human connection. David Chin's simple gift of his father's journal became something far greater. A reminder that even the most successful people in the world need friends, and that it's never too late to heal old wounds. That we'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and tell us your city or country. It's amazing to think that this story about connection is bringing people together from all around the world. If this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, please give this video a like. It really helps us reach more people who might need to hear this message. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for many more inspiring stories like this one. We share tales of hope, friendship, and the incredible things that happen when people choose kindness over conflict. Most importantly, please share this video with your friends and family. In a world that often feels divided, stories like David's remind us that small acts of compassion can create ripple effects that last for generations. Help us spread this message of kindness and awareness, because you never know whose heart might need healing today. Thank you for listening, and remember, the best way to change the world is to start by caring for the people right beside you.